Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with the fleeting Charles Coulombe.
Fleeting?
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm dying tomorrow?
No, you're going away because you don't love us.
I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. Well, okay. That may be an overstatement, but I'd be lying. I'd be lying if I said there weren't some things here other than people, a lot of people, whom I'll miss. I will miss, and in no particular order. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, I'm going to miss Musso and Frank's.
Okay.
I'm going to miss the Dresden Room.
Got it.
I'm going to miss the fabulous Fair Oaks Pharmacy in South Pass.
I know, yeah. That's an interesting one, yeah. I've never been in.
Oh, wow.
Is that like a soda fountain place?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Takes you right back to my childhood.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss the Rose Tree Cottage in Pasadena. I'm going to miss the Colonial Kitchen, San Marino.
Oh, yeah. I like that place.
Yeah, and Julienne's in San Marino. The French Hand Laundry in Pasadena, where I get my removable collars and formal shirts dealt with. Oh, golly, there are a lot of places.
What about the Huntington?
Yeah, not so much. Not since they ruined the bar.
Really?
Yeah, now the Langham Hotel, once the Ritz-Carlton, before that the Sheraton, but always the Huntington. Yeah, I went back there. But Griffin's of Kinsale in South Pass.
Of course.
Missed that. St. Therese, my parish church in Alhambra, and Our Lady of Grace, my Anglican Ordinariate parish church in Covina. There's a lot I'll miss. But you know the problem with the LA area?
What?
If you got all the stuff I love and crammed it into a 2 or 3 mile circumference, it'd be great. It would be an amazing city able to set its head up next to Paris or Vienna or anywhere else. But you know the problem?
What?
It's not 2 or 3 miles in circumference. You know what I'm not going to miss?
What?
Spending a chunk of my life every day on the freeway.
You don't commute. Yeah.
No, but I have to drive all over the place anyway.
Oh.
I mean, if I were a commuting creature, that'd be I don't know how I'd survive it. But as it is, I mean, there's no longer in the city. There's no longer a rush hour. Every hour is rush hour. It's just that some are beyond miserable, and the others are, you know.
It's interesting the way traffic has changed with the advent of sort of new technology, because it used to be just kind of the freeways jammed.
Yeah.
But now, like, we're in between, like, several parallel freeways. So now what you have with Google Maps is people put on the GPS, and with Google Maps, it tells you, you know, they're not afraid to take the streets anymore because Google will recommend
a route.
Yeah, the quickest route. So now it's like our local area is now jammed.
Yeah, without the freeways seeming to improve any.
Yeah. So.
Anyway, I blame the Morlocks and the Eloy.
You don't like any of our. You don't like the San Gabriel Mountains.
I like the San Gabriel Mountains. I like the Arboretum. I like the Huntington Library very much, and gardens. And there are other things I will miss too, having to do with time. You know, I've just seen my first Halloween display in a Ralph's grocery store. So the long.
Is that later than last year?
A little, actually. It does seem slightly later. Because, you know, for a while it was opening up in July.
Right.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Still, you know, I love the American Halloween, and that I'll be cheesed out of. And I love what has become in Los Angeles, at least the San Gabriel Valley, a custom I'm very fond of. And that is the Autumn Moon Festival that our Chinese friends brought.
That sounds pagan. Autumn Moon Festival?
Well, that's not what you mean. When in the Autumn Moon Festival, when you see a group of people pass by, you turn around and, no, that's not what it means. It doesn't mean they're mooning people. Can you not go there? That really is horrible.
That's inappropriate.
I think so. I am shocked you even brought it up.
I am too.
And you, the measure of all propriety here in the Tumblr House Tower.
I am.
Yeah, and yet you made a comment like that.
I didn't make it. You made it.
Well, someone made it, and I was offended.
Okay.
I have a right to be offended. Yes. And I'll have you know something else, because today is Monday.
Yeah.
It was whitefish in the commissary today.
You like that?
No, and not only did I not really like it, but I can taste where the mackerel comes from. But it wasn't all bad, because they had what they call tater tot poutine today.
And?
Well, apparently the tater tots are left over from, you had some kind of employee do on Saturday around breakfast time. They had tater tots masquerading as hash browns. So now, since they had so many of them left over, they dumped gravy and cheese on them and pushed it at us as tater tot poutine.
Was it good?
Yeah, sure. It certainly killed the taste of the fish, anyway.
That's good. That's important then.
How was the turf in the executive dining room now that there's no more surf?
I mean, it's okay. Again, without the lobster to accentuate the
positive,
the nuance, accentuate the positive. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna have to. I don't know. I'm gonna have to do something. I have to change it up.
Yeah, I don't know what you're gonna do. Also, I have to tell you, even though they're 3 months before the production, you'll be happy to know that the girls of the secretarial pool are getting ready for the talent show for Thanksgiving. And you know what they're rehearsing?
What?
From an ancient 1969 musical, they're doing Turkey Lurkey Day.
Of course.
Well, they were told by someone or other it was one of your favorites, so they've been trying to do it. I think they've got a little ways to go, so it's a good thing that they started rehearsing now.
Yeah.
But with any luck, by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, you'll be amazed at how good they are. The motor pool are as always. They were very tearful at my forthcoming departure, because they told me that I'm the only higher employee in this company that actually tips when I get my car back. Apparently, no one else tips them.
I mean, are you supposed to tip them?
You always tip a valet. It's like tipping a waitress.
Well, what do we pay them for?
You don't pay them a lot.
So I have to pay them with cash with a tip?
Yes. You should always give them $5. I mean, don't forget, they would be a little bit different if you had to pay when you're parking this thing. But you don't have to pay.
I mean, people aren't living off a valet job. I mean, that's just a thing on the side. I mean, you park cars for a living? Come on.
Who's telling you this crap? Pepe has been there for, since the place opened. And before that, before you lured him away from East Hollywood Parking, Inc., he worked as a professional valet in the business, valet parker, for, 17, 18 years. So, I mean, this man has a lot of experience. And yes, he is supporting 7 children off it and 3 ex-wives.
Okay, well, that's a lot to support.
Yeah, and you won't give him a lousy $5 every morning to get your car back.
$5, really?
Yes, $5.
That's like as much of a tip as like a $30 meal.
It's chump change, and you're not paying $30 even. It's utter chump change, and he's not the only one. They all have sob stories. If you bother to listen to them and talk to them.
So you're telling me you tip $5?
I tip $5.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
You know what? You ask Pepe when you get your car this evening, and he'll tell you.
Okay, I will.
5 big ones every time, pal. Share the wealth. That's my motto. Huey Long, every man a king, and a crown on every pot, or whatever it is. And that's not all that I've seen around here.
What?
Since this is my last day, I might as well tell all.
As if that's something new.
It is something new. I've never really been open with my feelings before.
Oh, okay.
Tyrone and the gang are actually quite content. They're probably the most content of all of your employees. Although I did think it was a little strange on weekends they have shoot-to-kill orders. That's a little harsh. I mean, nobody could break into this place anyway.
I think it's important.
Yeah, so do they.
It's a deterrent. We haven't had to shoot anyone, Charles.
Yes, okay? I know that. And
it's precisely because of the shoot-to-kill order.
But this place is impregnable. No one's going to get in anyhow.
Hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Okay,
That's
great.
my motto.
Great. Well, grounds and maintenance are happy as well. Now that you're allowing them to water the grass again.
Yeah.
It's getting to look a little dead, but they're happy about that. And the only other element of your vast workforce that I can actually comment on, I can't comment on because they don't really exist. I mean, well, they do, but I'm not really. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I once 2 weeks ago when I came back, I took the elevator up to the 17th floor because I wanted to look at the new patterns for next year, the new covers and so on. And much to my shock and horror, I saw number 13 on the the place where you push the button.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't stop, either going up or going down, and I didn't push the button on 13 because I didn't want to stop there.
Okay.
All right. So, but presumably they're happier. I wouldn't have seen them at all.
Okay. So anything else going on in real life for you?
Not really.
So, but by the time everyone sees this, you'll be in Austria.
I sure will. This will be a week from now. It'll be the following Monday. You actually just released one today.
Yeah.
And so far the reaction seems to have been fairly positive, which I'm grateful for. So yeah, a week from now I'll be back in the fatherland, and we'll have to go back to our split scene looks.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, and back to we're gonna have to do a lot of memes, because we've been racking them up.
Oh boy, you know what? We should probably have the very best reserved for a meme pre-show.
A meme pre-show for the patrons?
Yeah.
But a lot of the people who do the memes can't see the pre-show because they don't pay money.
Oh.
So we can't do that for them.
All right, never mind.
It
was the thought.
What's the expression about circus and... Oh, I forgot. For the peasants. Circus and...
Bread and circuses.
Bread and circuses. There we go. Bread and circuses for the peasants.
All right. And pre-shows for the for the other ones, for the aristocrats.
That's right.
The Aristotle. All right, never mind. Let's get on. Do we have some questions here or what?
Firstly, we're $30 away from the promised land.
30.
For Patron. We might, by the time you guys see this, maybe we hit it already. But as it stands, this Monday, we are $30 away. So we're very excited.
This close.
So we've got that. Don't forget the pillows, of course.
Well, you know, one of the comments on the last show was, my politics are Charles clutching the pillows.
There you go.
So, for whoever it was who said that,
very cute.
You know, I'd rather be cute than smart.
In this day and age, I think it pays better.
No, I'll say. Look at Lady Gugu.
I don't think Lady Gugu's cute.
Is she smart?
Oh, she's in that special. She's in the special class.
All right, what do we got?
Okay. Able to wrangle together a theme for this show. Since this is Charles's last show in America, in the United States.
These United States, by the grace of God, free and independent.
Yes. I picked a bunch of questions that focus on America. So we're gonna get the Americana in.
Golly. You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true under red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast nor brag. And should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on that grand old flag.
I love that song so much that it actually never gets old for me.
Me neither.
Okay. All right, to start off, we have a bunch of questions from Jay Voiles. Jay Voiles, super fan. So Here you go.
Here you go.
First question.
All right.
What American history documentaries would you recommend?
Oy.
Surely there's plenty. There's a ton out there that are you would recommend.
Not really. Not really, but it's not out of...
Why not?
It's not because... It's just because I don't know enough of them, that's all.
Because you already know everything. You don't need to watch a documentary.
Well, I don't. I wouldn't say I know everything, but I would say I don't watch a lot of documentaries on American history.
Really?
Yeah. But that's not... That is not by any stretch to say they're not worth watching. It's just that they're not worth watching without a good background, so caveat lector, you know. I don't know. Can't think of any. But it's, again, in this particular case, it's not because they're perhaps not ones worth watching. It's my own ignorance, nothing else. So.
Fox News had an interesting one a couple years ago. They had like a series. Had some interesting ones.
There are historical movies, American historical movies I like, but they're not necessarily wonderfully accurate.
Like what?
Oh, How the West Was Won.
Okay.
Johnny Tremaine. Northwest Passage.
I don't know any of these.
Well, that's because your drums along the Mohawk. That's because you're, young. The Y word.
Okay.
Yeah, these are the films I grew up with. The Alamo.
What about The Patriot, Mel Gibson?
I've never seen it.
Wow.
But the films, Zorro, of course. The films the
Antonio Banderas, right?
No, the Disney version, of course.
I actually have seen the Disney version. I used to watch when it was the old timey Disney Channel.
Yeah.
They used to do the old Zorro thing, and I loved that with the fat Spaniard guy.
Yeah, Sergeant Garcia.
Yeah, I love
Tamales, tamales.
I love that. Gosh, thank you for bringing. That was like a piece of my past that was I hadn't thought about. It was hidden.
Well, I grew up with that, and I absolutely adored it. There were a lot. Well, I mean, for that matter, some of the television programs we had back then, like Daniel Boone, I really liked.
I've seen bits of that.
Again, none of this stuff was really all that accurate historically. And fortunately, I had a father who was able to guide me.
Yeah.
But they were fun. They were enjoyable.
Good. Okay, what do you think of the work of Ken Burns? Who's Ken Burns?
Ken Burns is a documentary filmmaker whose work is almost, though I suppose not entirely, confined to PBS.
But you don't watch documentaries?
Not as a rule. I mean, I've watched, I liked his one on the Roosevelts, which I did watch. And I've seen chunks of the Civil War, which, I'm not a big Shelby Foote fan, so I'm not necessarily in agreement with his editorial stance. But I will always be grateful to him for making the song Ashokan Farewell famous. And I'm not being funny. I love that song. The funny thing about the Ashokan Farewell, it was written in upstate New York about, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And it epitomizes the Hudson Valley to me, and by extension, my own country as a whole. So it's something, believe it or not, that I do listen to fairly frequently in Austria when I'm getting in a particularly American mood. I will play the Ashokan Farewell on my computer. And then I think, all right, well, that's nice.
Okay, so
mixed returns. His baseball documentary, I didn't see, and I'm not, not what you would call an expert on baseball by any stretch. I liked his piece on New York, his thing on, I think he did one on television, or maybe it was comedy. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He's done some really good stuff, but again, I don't always agree with all of it. What else we got?
What are your views on Mark Twain?
Well, ideologically speaking, of course, he was horrible, although you wouldn't think so if you just read his Joan of Arc book, which is really very, very nicely done. He's certainly a great stylist. I grew up on Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. He had a very mordant view of the human condition, which
What is that?
Mordant, very downish, I guess you would say. He didn't think much of human pretension, human pride. And of course, if you're not a Catholic, that's the most realistic stance to take.
So that's good.
Well, in a natural sense, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Mark Twain's work. Some more than others. Innocents Abroad, I could have done without.
Okay, that's a little surprising because you don't normally have that. Because you said ideologically he's terrible,
No.
and yet the stories that he wrote you mostly enjoy. How could that happen?
Well, I've got a theory about that, actually, and it's a good question. It's the same with C.S. Lewis, whose apologetics, to the degree that a Catholic can use them, are okay to a degree, but beyond a certain point just aren't. And yet his fiction I love unreservedly. And I suspect that the reason for this dichotomy, not just between those two, but them and other authors, is that when they're writing nonfiction, then they have to express the views they consciously hold. But when they're writing fiction, although of course you do tend to express your views in them, the basic man comes out, as you might say, the basic individual.
Yeah.
Contrariwise, I've read fiction by people whose views I completely agreed with, but I didn't care for their fiction.
Okay.
So,
just out of curiosity, let's flesh out his views. What was he religiously?
A doubter, an agnostic, and an enemy to a great degree of any kind of organized religion. Although, of course,
based on what? Why?
Experiences, I suppose. I mean, he was a clever man and a wide thinker, but not a deep thinker.
A wide thinker, wide and shallow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the epitome of wide and shallow would be a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, which on one level is very funny and enjoyable, and on another level is utter garbage.
Okay. Why is baseball our national pastime?
We're bored? I don't know.
Well, how did it happen?
Well, I'm a bit sketchy. I'm not an expert on the history of baseball at all. But to the best of my knowledge, and I could easily be totally wrong, it was invented by Abner Doubleday in the first decade or so after the Civil War, and was picked up by Civil War veterans who popularized it. I think that's what happened, but I could be wrong. It was invented, though, and this I am pretty sure of, in a town called Cooperstown, New York, where the Baseball Hall of Fame is.
Yeah.
The other thing about Cooperstown, of course, is that it was founded by the grandfather of James Fenimore Cooper, and was the location of his familial estate. And the third thing to remember about Cooperstown is that they once had a very wonderful and rustic stone old bar with a name that I have never forgotten or forgiven.
What?
The Bold Dragoon.
Okay.
And a wonderful sign outside.
What's a dragoon again? Is that like a foreign soldier?
Well, no, we have them in America. They're basically riflemen who can fight on horseback, mounted infantry, in other words.
Okay.
So,
why can't you forgive that? And what is there to forgive?
Well, they closed.
Oh, okay. I thought you had a problem with the name.
No, I love the name, the Bold Dragoon.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think that's just a wonderful name for a bar or a pub.
Yeah.
The Bold Dragoon.
Yeah.
And if any of you out there, this is an invitation to you. I'm expanding the conversation, as we say in SoCal. If any of you out there have been to the Bold Dragoon in Cooperstown, New York, feel free to let us know.
Yeah, we got a couple people up there in New York. Okay. Well, I guess perhaps what's loaded into this question is why baseball over like football? Perhaps did we invent football, or was football invented?
No, American football was invented over here. I think it was on college campuses, and it's a descendant of rugby and things like that. But baseball was a game that anybody could play with a minimum of stuff.
That's true.
You just needed a stick and a ball.
That's true. It's very accessible. Yeah, my dad played stickball in old-timey New York,
You sure did.
1930s.
East side, west side, all around the town. The gals play Ring of Rosie, London Bridge is falling down. Boys and girls together, me and Mamie O'Rourke, we tripped the light fantastic on the sidewalks of New York. Is that
Like it.
1930s?
That's nice.
Yeah.
You're in a singing mood today.
I am. It's because I'm going back to the fatherland, where I can lift my voice in song. The sun in the meadow is summery. No?
Yeah.
No. All right, never mind. What do we got?
All right, that's it for questions from Jay Voiles. Next question is from...
I'm sorry if they were not satisfying, but I will say this much. Take me out to the ball game, take me out to the fair, buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if we never get back, and it's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. And it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
That's surprising that you relish that a very essential part of baseball culture like that.
It's true of everything about me. I like the externals. You know, the thing itself I don't care tuppence for. It's like the courts. You know, I love the costumes and God save the United States and this honorable court and all that kind of thing. I love the courtroom etiquette and so on. The law itself I don't give tuppence for.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know.
So, would you classify yourself as
Shallow?
why? Yeah, you do exactly what I was
Yeah, I would be lying if I said that it hasn't crossed my mind that I might have that in common with Mark Twain.
Okay. Next question is from Theo. Please, could you sketch out a genealogy of contemporary American left liberalism and cultural Marxism? I'm thinking particularly of how Puritanism in New England surprisingly and rapidly degenerated into Unitarianism and liberal Protestantism in the 18th and 19th centuries, which in turn mutated in today's secular humanists and woke cultural revolutionaries.
Woof! That's a tall order, but I'll give it my best shot. You know, as though it were a baseball game. There is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Coulombe has struck out.
Wow.
But we'll try. Anyway, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. The near approach of my departure is pushing me into senility. All right, but we'll do this. We'll pull ourselves together.
Yeah.
All right. Basically, you've got to understand that the ideological active ingredient, as it were, of the United States are not the Catholics that settled in Louisiana, Florida, New Mexico, and California and Texas, nor the Episcopalians who settled in Maryland and Virginia and Georgia and the Carolinas. No. Thanks to the victory in the American Civil War and various other things, the ideological active ingredient of our nation were the Pilgrim Fathers and the founding Puritans and all those guys. And they were the far left wing of the Reformation. They abolished any idea of the church other than a local gathering of people, no hierarchy. They got rid of the liturgical year. In other words, they cut the heart out of Christianity.
Got it.
And they were double predestinationists, which meant that they felt that there was nothing you could do to save your soul. And this all twisted and warped them in different ways. The human reaction on the part of their descendants was the self-same Unitarianism, which got rid of Calvinism with a vengeance, as well as any other vestige of Christianity over a long period of time. Although to this day there are Unitarians who consider themselves Christian without believing Christ is God. So, but that has taken place in just about every country where there are Calvinists. it's almost as though Calvinism, amongst certain sorts of people, burns out and becomes Unitarianism. I don't know why, but it does. Well, the Unitarian movement itself went a step further into transcendentalism.
Yeah.
And the transcendentalists, if I were to describe them in one sentence, I would say that they were the beginning of spiritual but not religious.
Definitely. That's dead on.
Yeah. And these movements waxed and waned according to various historic developments. The Great Awakenings, all three of them. The Civil War, our bloodiest war to date. And the Industrial Revolution. I mean, all of these things were affected by different factors. But at any rate, they ended up with transcendentalism becoming the bedrock of American thought.
Yeah.
And that's why all of us who go to school, presuming we do, are entertained with Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. And they are, to a greater or lesser degree, held up as our idols, and whatever religious background we may have has to play second fiddle to that.
Yeah.
Again, we don't do that consciously. But for most Catholic Americans, and Americans of other sorts, they consider, on some level, they consider that kind of transcendentalism superior to their ancestral faith, for which they feel they have to make allowances, rather than the other way around. Not, there must be something wrong with Emerson and Thoreau because they don't fit Catholic views. Instead, we think, well, there must be something a bit wrong with Catholicism because it doesn't fit the worldview of Emerson and Thoreau. That was the basis of it, and everything came from there. I mean, on a parallel level, you had the development of American public education, which started with the man who changed our spelling, Noah Webster, and then through Horace Mann and John Dewey, transmogrified into the garbage we have today, which goes to support the changes to the nation that I suggested.
Now, Webster, he is the father of public education, right?
Yeah, yes.
And one of the interesting things that you pick up from reading Puritan's Empire is that Webster said one of the goals of public education isn't necessarily, the main goal is cultural, I forgot what the word is, but basically it's to turn you into a good American.
Yeah.
And to push the values on you and everything, rather than actual education.
Correct. And the idea is, of course, that the only good American is a liberal.
Are you talking back then? Wait, what are you talking about?
Well,
or
but the
notion
same attitude.
Now?
Well, the notion now is the same thing. I mean, basically, if you believe that one religion is better than another, you're un-American. If you believe that every ethnicity and people have differing, one hopes, complementary abilities and weaknesses, you're a racist.
Yeah.
If you believe in gender roles, you're a sexist, and quite possibly a cis hetero patriarch.
Definitely.
But all of these rather grotesque developments come from that same root.
Yeah, absolutely. That I noticed that about. It's very important to think about our roots and how we approach, and the roots of our approach to religion, because it occurred to me that we always view religious people in the same mindset. There's this zealousness that you see portrayed in films and everywhere else, where it's like you're not comfortable with this person.
No, because there's something wrong with him.
There's
If
something
he's
wrong with
religious,
him.
there's a problem.
Yeah.
He's probably, killed his mother or something.
Right. Yeah, there's some story that has pushed him into religion or something because he couldn't have gotten it there himself. And but that is from where we come from with the Transcendentalists and the Puritans.
It's as American as apple pie.
And it's a lie that's very important for us to combat, to show that you can have fun.
Yeah.
that is, I mean, that's such an important lie, that because Americans and as young people, they love fun.
Yes. And if you could convince, one way to half win over young people is to convince them that your opponents are old fuddy-duddies, killjoys who want to take away your good time. They want to take away your right to smoke and drink.
Yeah, that reminds me of one of my favorite Solange Hertz quotes, where she says reading gets such a bad name because of a bunch of squares.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that. A lot of truth to that. But then you stop and you look at Lord of the Rings and Tolkien, and you have to say, well.
Yeah.
So, anyway, what else we got?
Okay. Next question is from Mr. Smith. It recently came to my attention that the overwhelming majority of America's history, we've been at war. 222 years out of 239 years since 1776. Rome and many other republics are not only brought about by war, but live in a constant state of conflict. Do republics need war to legitimize their power in a way other forms of government don't?
Well, it's a very good question, and a very interesting theory. I had never thought of it, frankly, until this second. On the face of it, it makes sense. I mean, you certainly need, in a republic, in peacetime, the president is really only ruler of whomever voted for him.
Yeah.
To get that feeling of near unanimity that a monarch strives for is very difficult. You need almost a disaster or a war. So I guess the argument might be made at Conspiracy Central or whatever, that war is necessary to retain any kind of real Republican neighborhood, Republican governance, rather.
Yeah, it seems it plays with your emotions, doesn't it, a little bit, because it heightens the sense of purpose, because you've got to be fighting for something. You're fighting for your country, and your country represents, fill in the blank.
The great cause.
Yeah.
Whereas the idea of simply being peacefully loyal to your country for its own sake, without worrying about the lesser breeds, without the law outside, that's alien. Certainly the American Republican thinking. Small r. I'm not talking about Mr. Trump and the rest of them.
Okay, but I wouldn't say republics need war.
No, I don't know that they need it, but it certainly has benefited them. I mean, looking at this one.
Well, couldn't you say that about monarchies and every other government too, though? Because as we say, war always heightens the sense of purpose.
It does, but the problem is that the monarch. It's easier for the monarch to rule in a period of peace, unless there's some economic problem.
That's not true for republics?
Not really.
Why not?
Well, because we don't have the central organizing principle.
What is that?
Well, the king is your common father, given to you by God. We don't have that. I mean, look at what we have today. We have a country that is so terribly divided between the Trumpsters and the anti-Trumpsters. In republics, traditionally, the way out of this would have been, let's go to war.
Okay.
But in a monarchy, and certainly history has shown this, peace is inevitably more profitable for a monarchy than war is. And it's interesting to note that the American and French revolutions were preceded by a series of wars between the European monarchs, which were remarkable for their viciousness and their nastiness. Anyway, that's my own thought. Who knows?
I still think that the republic operating in a time of peace, I mean, why wouldn't they do well, though? I mean, I think...
Well, because republics are not natural, and they're based upon some ideology or other. Ideologies, I'll put it this way, what is the difference between your family and the Knights of Columbus, your Council of the Knights of Columbus, apart from size?
Well, family's obviously organic and natural.
It's simply there. But the Knights of Columbus have a purpose. All right? Your family doesn't have a purpose except existence. Whereas the Knights of Columbus, being a movement, They have a purpose.
Okay.
So in other words, when you go to your council meetings, you might very well enjoy the company of your brother knights and so on. But the idea of just kicking back and not doing any of the council business would be mad.
Okay. So
every organization like that has a purpose.
So you're saying monarchy is like a family. It's like a natural state of being, their state of existing, where republic is like Knights of Columbus?
Well, it's a cause. It's a movement. It's got to go somewhere. Remember, republics have always come to birth through revolutions. Now, what is a revolution? Well, a revolution is a great, glorious cause. We're going to overthrow tyranny and bring in liberty. We never do, but then we also don't catch on. You know, the old definition of madness is to keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting this time the republic will be free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as a result, in order to stay on an even keel, the sense of purpose, the cause that produced the revolution in the first place, has to be somehow maintained to keep the republic on an even keel. But how do you do that? It's very difficult in peacetime. It's much easier in wartime, because there you could simply say that fighting this enemy is an extension of the glorious cause that brought our forefathers here.
I see.
No, you don't. You're supposed to look off into the great future tomorrow. Cue Telstar. Da 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 dee 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 dee.
I got it.
Are you getting all swept up into it?
I like the musical arrangements better.
All right. Well, never mind. But the point I'm making is that as I'm just sitting here thinking, on the run, as it were, brain on the run, brain on the run. No?
No.
Anyway, as I'm thinking on the run, so to speak, I suppose that you could make the argument that, a monarchy is simply a state of being, and a republic is a glorious cause if it's to retain the allegiance of its followers.
I'm gonna have to chew on that and digest that a little bit, because we've done a lot of shows. I've never heard that.
Me neither. I've never thought it.
That's very interesting.
I think so.
But yeah, okay.
I told you this has just come to me from the question. So work in progress.
Work in progress. Yeah. Okay. Next question is from Nicholas.
All right, Nicholas, what do you got for us?
There appears to be so many similarities between modern American politics and the political situation of Rome before Caesar and Augustus came to power. How close do you think we are to a potential collapse of the United States and the reign of a series of American emperors similar to that of the Romans?
Oh, wow.
We're far away from that, aren't we? I mean, we're mega far away from that. Don't play games. You're playing games with me.
I'd say that if the Trumpster wins, we're at least 4 years away.
Oh, ha 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 ha.
I don't know, but I mean, I know exactly what he's seeing, and certainly I see it too. It's kind of ironic though, because the founding fathers looked at themselves as the successors of the Roman Republicans.
Yeah.
And that's kind of ironic that they would have taken that as their role model, because look where that ended up.
Yeah.
But they did, and so here we are. I don't know. I really don't know.
Because, I mean, we are seeing signs, absolutely, in California. It's funny because there's a lawlessness by the municipalities in general. You've got the sanctuary cities disobeying the federal government, but also on Fox, it's funny, they had sanctuary cities disobeying the state government. In terms of gun control, needles is in a conservative way. It's a conservative reaction to the liberal madness, because it's like you have to do this mega background check to purchase even like ammunition. Yeah. I was behind someone in Walmart the other day, and it was taking like 30 minutes to purchase ammunition, and all the Walmart employees are like confounded and bewildered, and because it was a new process and very long, and so. To me, that's a sign of the wrong direction. This lawlessness that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
And another thing, unfortunately, in California, it's a big to-do. I don't know if you've noticed this, but in recent years, it's become tangible, is the homelessness is increasing.
Yes.
There,
It's just since I've been gone.
if you're on the 605 and you look on the right where the wash is, there are people in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And of course, we've had typhus come back and so on.
And yeah, it's we just saw a big old spread in the paper, because this must be everywhere too, where we've got to deal with the homelessness now. How are we going to do this? And we're not going to solve the problem because we're too stupid. We can't solve simpler problems.
I would send them all to Sacramento to live in the Capitol building with the assemblyman.
I think we already did that based on how we're operating.
If only.
But
yeah, it's a mess.
But again, so we have all these things. You can see the slow train wreck happening.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I always fall back on what you mentioned, which is we'll have real problems when there's no longer an obesity problem. When we're wondering about what our next meal is.
When you don't see ads for obesity anymore. Until the majority of people are worried about where their next meal is coming from, the thing should hold together.
Yeah.
Until then...
So it would have to be some sort of Soviet Union type situation.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, there are any number of things that could bring about a crack, because we have a very delicate civilization. Imagine, if you will, terrorist activity or sunspots. Frying a good chunk of the web.
Well,
that would lead to all sorts of problems.
Ben Carson, I never forgot what he said. He said there's a solar flare that happens every 150 or 200 years, and we passed it. Like it should have happened.
Oof.
And he estimated it's like an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, and the time it would take to get everything up and running again would be about 3 years. So it's like 3 years or 3 days of darkness. You like that?
Mommy, I want to go home now.
Prophecy.
Yeah, okay, great. Fine, I'll get my blessed rocks from the choir in Irwindale. All right, what else we got?
Okay, next question is from Nate. Going to join the Navy at some point and would like to know about Charles's experience in the U.S. military and any tales of American valor from his family's history in the military.
Oh, boy. In the Navy, you could sail this. No? Anchors away, me boys, anchors away. Farewell to college joys, we sail at break of day.
That's fine.
All right, but you didn't want to hear in the Navy.
No, not so much.
All right. Well, actually, first and foremost, Nate, thank you for, I guess, manning the subs or the aircraft carrier or the desk or whatever you're going to be manning as part of the senior service. Well, you must understand that my time in the National Guard was in the beautiful early 80s, when this country was not at war and the prospect of going to war again a la Vietnam was minimal. The Abrams Doctrine had been introduced for precisely the purpose of preventing the United States to go into any war that was not wildly popular with the majority. So much so was this the case. I mean, we literally could not really imagine going to war again unless the Soviets invaded. In which case, we had kind of a problem, because all of the equipment we would have been using, most of which we had not trained with, was pre-positioned in Germany. And so the likelihood was that it would already have fallen before we could do anything.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a messed up situation. But in those days, we had a motto, which was, "Sleep well, America, your National Guard does." Wouldn't say that today by any stretch. And today, the brave men and women of the Guard and the Reserve and the regular Army and the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, and of the various state guards across this great land of ours, despite the fact that they're constantly being used for social engineering and gender reassignment by our masters and lords, they are as they have been. The American Armed Forces have been one of the finest reservoirs of talent in the world. They remain so despite the best efforts of the scumbags in power. I mean scumbag in a nice way. I don't mean it the way, you might presume I mean something bad by scumbag.
Right, yeah.
It's acceptance. It's not condemnation. So, good luck. As far as my own family goes, well, I suppose my father is the one you really need to look at because he was a tail gunner in the war against Japan in World War II. They had a average lifespan in battle of seconds, and Dad made 12 successful missions. Then when the war was over, he volunteered for the Graves, I forget exactly what it's called, the Graves something service. Initially, that meant going to places like Iwo Jima to pick up bodies. And he always told the rather gruesome tale of coming to Iwo Jima and walking around looking for, stray corpses and so forth, and his foot going through like a framework of some kind. And he looked down, and it was the rib cage of a dead Japanese soldier. He had a lot of little, yummy tales like that to tell. And then when that period was over, he went back into civilian life, but re-upped, as it were, for, I think, 5 months in 46 to accompany bodies home. And that meant getting on the train in uniform and accompanying the coffin to wherever it came from. So he did a lot of traveling that way, but it also gave him the chance to assure various grieving families that their son had done his best for God and country. He joined the armed forces on January the 21st, 1945. He was 18.
He volunteered?
He volunteered. He didn't have to go because he was the only son of a widow. And his mother did not want him to go by any stretch of the imagination. You know what? It must have been, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It was 44. He went January 21st, 1944. Yeah. But yeah, she refused when he turned 17. He asked her to sign the documents so he could volunteer, and she refused, and continued to refuse until he joined up. So as a result, he didn't graduate from high school. Because, as you guess from the math, he went in January and his class graduated in June.
You couldn't wait 6 months.
No, he wouldn't wait a. Well, he was kind of keen in getting into the war after Pearl Harbor. His family.
What day was Pearl Harbor?
December 7th, 1941. His family and my mother's family, although they didn't know each other at all, were both very much America Firsters and very much opposed to the war until Pearl Harbor. But that was seen as an outright attack on the United States.
Yeah. So
my father always, as an adult, when I knew him, he was still very much an America Firster and felt we should have stayed out of the war, and that Mr. Roosevelt did everything he could to get into it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the question. After the United States were attacked, they were attacked.
Yeah.
So, and I would say that in this, as in just about every other aspect of his life of which I was aware, my father was and remains my great hero. So, there you are.
Your brother's also a colonel.
Yes, my brother is indeed. He spent 30 years in the reserves, and he is now in the State Guard, very active. He did not go to Iraq or Afghanistan or anywhere else, despite trying to pull strings to go there. Instead, he went to some of our dirty little wars in Latin America.
And
did
that Reagan did.
Reagan during World War II? No.
Oh, in Latin America? Oh, I thought you were talking about during the 80s.
No. Well, he went down there in the 80s and the 90s, but no place was obviously an active theater.
Got it. It's like the movie Clear and Present Danger, right? Harrison Ford.
Yeah. Let's just say that as is always the case, our country's military have to operate on many different levels. And my brother started out in, first it was Armored Cav in the National Guard, and then he went into Special Forces. And he was that for the biggest part of his career. But he, anyway, he's alive to tell the tale.
Yep. Okay, time for the books.
Oh, end of questions. We got you now.
We've got actually 2 books. We've got, because we have a related question from a loyal fan on Puritan's Empire and Star-Spangled Heresy. This is the primo book from Charles. His books are autographed for, we actually have a very lean inventory right now. We're not stocked up heavily right now. So get these while they last. Oh, wow. Well, actually, this discount ends in August. 20% discount on all of Solange Hertz's books. Maybe I'll let it go for a couple days in September. But this sale is coming to an end. 20% off all of Solange Hertz's books. So, okay. So, related question from Casey.
All right. Let's hear it.
I just finished reading Solange Hertz's Star-Spangled Heresy. I borrowed from a friend and let him borrow my copy of Charles's Puritan's Empire.
Always feel free to buy copies for everybody of anything.
Yeah, authors always get angry about that, right? Oh, I love so much your book, I lent it out to everybody.
Yeah, I lent my copy to all my friends. And you can't really get angry at that because they say it so, happily and feel that you should be happy too that they had such a respect for your work. And of course, on one level you do, and on another level you have to eat. So, if just remember that saying something like that to a writer who lives off his work, it would be very much like your boss saying that he very much appreciates the work you're doing at your job without ever bothering, about a paycheck or anything like that. Just, you're doing a really good job. We all really admire what you're doing here. Isn't it payday? Oh, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
We get paid every other day. It's like Tumbler House. You get paid every other day, yesterday and tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know what's on your mind when you hear him lending his book out. You're thinking, not again, I have to be a waiter in the executive dining room.
It's not happening. They only want me there to lend prestige. Oh, look, we have one of our most famous writers working as a mere waiter. Don't even start. So, the question then is what?
Okay, so both are great books, and
Thank
I plan to do as you ask and review them on Amazon.
Thank you.
Review them on TumblerHouse.com, too. We're competing with Amazon for these reviews. And if you review them on TumblerHouse.com, you get a $5 coupon through your email instantly.
See?
So, there you go. It doesn't need to be Shakespeare either. Just say, thought-provoking.
Best thing I've ever read, life-changing.
Yeah, 5 stars, and that's it.
I didn't commit suicide because I read this book, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need reviews, and we need them so much we're willing to pay for them.
Hey.
No, I mean, we're
willing to thank you in tangible ways.
In tangible ways. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay. I didn't mean it like, your books are bad, so we need to pay people to do fake reviews.
That's what he's saying now. Anyway, let's get on with the question before you bury yourself deeper.
Okay. Also, obviously, the two are related in material and are suited for any Catholics that desires to red pill themselves into a trad tizzy.
Ooh.
But something I can't stop thinking about is that Hertz continually refers to Leo XIII as liberal, or the liberal Leo XIII. As we whom live on this side of Vatican II, and liberalism is shown in full measure, what gives? I had it in mind that Leo XIII was quite a hero, given his prolific writings that seem to indicate orthodoxy and testimony from all corners of traddom. Was Miss Hertz on to something that most, including myself, do not see? Was Leo XIII a through and through liberal? How should we remember him?
Well, that's a very, very good question. And the answer is, as with a large number of popes, for the most part, his writings were spot on.
Yeah.
But his practical tactics sometimes suffered.
Yeah, things get complicated a lot of times. Like,
Yeah.
who's the good pope? Who is it? Pius XII, who did great, but then like he
Pius
was on
XI.
the wrong side of the Cristero War.
Pius
like,
XI.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, he wasn't on the wrong side per se. It's just that he advocated their surrendering.
Yeah. He wasn't on the wrong side. He
just told them to surrender when they shouldn't have.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Yeah, and it was a mistake that led to a lot of lives being lost.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just a mistake like, my bad. No,
Yeah.
it was a pretty murderous mistake.
Yeah.
So, when you ask, was Pius XI a good pope or a bad pope? Well, the answer is both.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're looking at. So the same is true with Leo XIII. You read Immortale Dei or Humani Generis or Rerum Novarum, all good stuff. But he was faced with two clear and urgent political problems, and he kind of muffed them. Due to his definitely liberal Secretary of State, Cardinal Rampolla. Basically, one of the big issues he had to deal with was the French government turning anti-clerical. Napoleon III was overthrown as a result of the Franco-Prussian War, and he had been sort of better than lukewarm Catholic. He had undone a lot of the damage of the revolution, though by no means all of it. And when he was overthrown, for a little while, it looked as though France would become a kingdom again, because the royalists had the upper hand. But several things happened at once. The heir to the throne refused to accept the tricolor flag. Now, people always said, oh, well, I made a big deal over just a flag. It wasn't just a flag. It was really, that wasn't the question at the bottom of it all. The question was, what sort of a monarchy would it be that he'd be inheriting? Would it be an effective monarchy, or would it be a figurehead monarchy? And he did not want to be a figurehead.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why bother? He should have been Louis Philippe, if that was all it was. And even Louis Philippe wasn't sufficiently able to do it, which is why he got overthrown. The Third Republic had elected a very good Catholic as president, who was also a monarchist, who wanted to be replaced with the monarchy, Marshal MacMahon. That looks like Marshal McMahon or McMahon, if you're
Got it.
one of you people. But
One of my people.
yeah, you people. Anglos.
Okay.
You're an Anglo.
Okay.
You speak English. It's your first language.
How come you're not an Anglo?
It's not my first language.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Well, your first language shapes your brain. All right? You're an Anglo.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
With slight Yiddish overtones.
Why would you say that?
Well, because your dad was born in New York, as I was.
That makes Yiddish overtones? Why is that?
Well, New York English has heavy Yiddish overtones.
Yeah, you just repeated what I just asked you.
Yeah, I just said.
Yeah, okay, why is that?
Because there are a lot of Jews in New York. And they have a big influence on the culture and the food. An influence to the good, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, that's like saying, like, we have Asian overtones because we, in Arcadia.
We do.
That would be ridiculous to say such a thing.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Why is it the Autumn Moon Festival is one of my favorite things around here? Would I be celebrating the Autumn Moon Festival in an Italian neighborhood?
But you would never characterize yourself as having Asian overtones.
I would if my English had more Chinese in it.
Why doesn't your French have more Chinese?
Well,
this is the craziest
got me
conversation
there.
I've ever
You got
had.
me there. I don't know, actually.
Okay.
What is? I guess because I wasn't born in Vietnam in 1951. I guess I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, we're moving right along from that extremely peculiar backwater we landed in. I don't know how we got there, folks, but I hope we can pedal our way out.
Yeah. Wow, that was deep.
Or wide, anyway.
We went from Leo the 13th to that.
Yeah,
How did we do that? I'm gonna have to
don't
watch
know.
the video and retrace that.
Yeah, yeah, keep it in the act. Anyway, the point is that in response to the growing power of the anti-clericals, Leo XIII wanted to preserve the Concordat, which regulated the relationship between the church and the French government. So to do it, he came up with the idea, because the royalists refused to accept it. The royalists were the most effective part of the church in France. All right, they were the strong ones.
Of course.
But he wanted them to work with the Republic for the purpose of securing the Concordat. So he put through something called the Ralliement, which called on the French Catholics to abandon the king and rally to the Republic. Well, if you could imagine for a moment, to put it in other terms, that we got a new government here of some kind, a socialist government, say, but the larger part of active Catholics still clung to the old constitution and wanted a restoration of the old republic. And then you had a pope come along who said, well, for the sake of maintaining the position of the church, abandon your adherence to the Constitution and give it up and rally to the new government.
Yeah.
What do you think that would do to the Catholic community in the States?
That'd be pretty scandalous.
And it would split it.
And of course.
Because some would feel obligated to obey the Pope, and some would feel obligated to remain loyal to the king.
Of course.
And what the effect that this ralliement had on the French Catholic community was extremely predictable. They were split, and their effectiveness was destroyed. And it was Leo XIII who put them in that position. The second thing is that he had become aware of what was called the heresy of Americanism, which is basically, it's a number of ideas, but one of them is the idea that the church in America should be different from the church in the rest of the world, because we're freer and more democratic and wonderful and stuff.
Yeah.
And there were other views that went along with it. Active virtues are more important than contemplative virtues, that kind of thing. Teaching and hospital orders are better and more important than contemplative orders, etc.
Well, also, isn't it a sense that because you're voting on laws, it's like that leaches into your religion? Like,
yeah.
Oh, well, we can vote for marijuana, so why can't we just
vote for gay priests?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it also, it affected us in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The idea that truth is changeable according to the will of the majority.
Exactly.
And these ideas were put together as the heresy of Americanism.
Yeah.
But Rampolla persuaded Leo XIII not to condemn anyone in particular for this heresy, but simply to say it was being taught over here and it was a bad thing. Well, that was funny because some of the leading Americanists were in positions of power over here. I don't want to mention Cardinal Gibbons of Baltimore or Archbishop Island of St. Paul, Minnesota. Oh. But they, of course, turned around and said, oh, ain't nobody here but us chickens, boss. We don't got no, ain't no Americanism America. It's just us, everything good, everything orthodox.
We've gotten a lot of questions on Gibbons.
Slippery Jim Gibbons, look to your ribbons.
Okay.
That's what they said about him.
What was his diocese? New York?
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
And the interesting thing is that Baltimore, by all rights, should be the primatial see of these United States. But Gibbons was so mistrusted.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Yeah. Okay, so Leo XIII didn't condemn anyone by name.
Which had the effect of allowing Americanism to grow sotto voce.
Yeah, I don't know if it was you who said it. Someone said it, but that America in its infancy did a great job insulating Americans from foreign influence, most especially the Vatican.
Yeah.
So, it's just interesting that that's part of Americanism, and part of that
Part of American
American
Catholicism.
is just ignoring the Pope.
Well, yeah, and of course, we were always that way. It's always been interesting that when Pius VI was looking for someone to appoint as first Bishop of Baltimore, he turned to Ben Franklin, who was the most famous American at the time, and Franklin recommended John Carroll. And when later Franklin was asked why he had recommended him, he said, well, all the months that we were going up to Canada and back, Father Carroll never once mentioned religion.
And it's been like that ever since.
Yep. We Catholics in America don't talk about either politics or religion, and perhaps have none of our own. But who knows? But at any rate, so there you go. That's why Leo XIII is considered by Solange Hertz to be a liberal.
Now, I think it's important, to do Leo XIII justice. I thought he was able to see the fruits of his actions, and I thought he cried. Isn't he one of the?
Yeah,
he's not the one who had the vision of Satan.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Well, he had the vision of Satan, being given a century to ruin the church if he could.
He heard the conversation, right? It was a conversation
between God and the devil.
Yeah, that's
sort of. It was kind of like the conversation between God and the devil regarding Job.
Yeah,
and supposedly he was given a century in which to try to destroy the church utterly. And if that's true, then it was sometime in the 1890s to the 1990s.
But why I mentioned this about Leo XIII, why he was sad, I think that's important because liberals nowadays, it's like, they destroy the church, and it's not even results oriented. It's like, oh yeah, we got no one, but oh well, everything's great. We're all going to heaven and blah blah blah. That's not true with Leo XIII. He cried.
No, and there's no remorse in the current stuff.
Yeah, and there's no remorse. Leo XIII had remorse, so I think that's a big difference there.
And also, he was trying to accomplish something for the church.
Yeah, that too.
He was not just out to destroy because he was a moron and wanted to make everything in his own stupid self-image.
Right.
Unlike some people one could point to today. We're going to change the church now. It's going to look just like me. Yeah, well, you know what? I wouldn't mind that if you didn't look like an utter schlub. But you do, so I don't like that.
Yeah, some of that Yiddish in there. Schlub.
Yeah, ein bisschen.
Yeah.
Ein bisschen Yiddish, booby. You see the tribe are infiltrating even here.
Yeah, so... just one caveat. I mean, Solange is very rough on Leo XIII.
Well, you got to bear in mind, too, that Solange, she was coming from a place of great annoyance. And you'll notice one of the big underlying motifs in her work is attacking sacred cows.
Yes.
And so...
to a fault, actually, for me.
Well, she sometimes uses hyperbole. But again, that's not to everyone's taste. But she also was dealing with years of frustration.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's interesting with Solange because we published 3 of her books which received imprimaturs 1960s before the council, and so it's a totally different tone.
Yeah.
Than after the council.
Well, it's because she saw everything go to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
And, she was a survivor. And you'll find that survivors of catastrophes are often not the most balanced or polite of people in expressing themselves. Someone comes back from liberating Auschwitz. So how do you feel about, German penal procedures? Well, I recall that while viewing the corpses at Auschwitz, it seemed to me that perhaps a greater emphasis on nutrition would have been helpful.
Yeah, of course, when you're dealing with horror, it's hard to. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be like that in the
No.
sterile.
And she was dealing with horror.
Yeah.
And it's important to bear that in mind. You know, I often ask myself, should I feel more outrage at something? You know, is my lack of outrage at a given issue more a measure of my tepidity than its actual importance?
That's a great question, because obviously I always think of that about abortion.
Yeah. Primo.
I don't think you can react enough. Or I don't think you can react too much. I think everybody...
But the fact that we don't speaks more about us than it does about the actual issue. The fact that we don't have a problem with it, really. I mean, we say we do. You know, we sign petitions, we go out for One Life LA, and we do all this stuff. But what does it really mean?
Part of it is because it's like behind a curtain.
Yeah. It's behind the curtain, and we're all living lives. But that's how it was for the Germans. You think the average German went to Auschwitz?
That's true.
I mean, that's why it cracks me up whenever I get asked, and I am occasionally, how could the Germans have gone along with all that? The way we do.
Yeah.
You know, they used to make fun of what were called the good Germans, meaning a typical German who was just living his life and so on and so forth. Well, okay, we're the good Americans.
Mm.
You know, we're living our lives. We're nice people, as we'll tell you. None of us would kill a child ourselves.
Yeah.
We're wonderful people, so we think. So, you know, when you're trying to evaluate historical figures and their failures and so forth, it's kind of hard if you keep in mind our contemporary failings. We're not nice people, contrary to what we tell ourselves continually.
Okay, well, so that'll do it for this episode. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, the next time you see us, we'll be split personalities.
Yeah.
We'll be hands across the water again. We'll be collaboration across the seas. Good stuff or what?
Good stuff. Good stuff. And yeah, I'm sure you'll miss America and a great deal.
Yeah, of course. I will, really. There's a grand old...
Well, not everyone can be a great patriot. It's okay, Charles.
I can.
It's okay.
Gott erhalte, Gott beschütze, unser Kaiser, unser Land.
I don't know if I can put this on YouTube anymore. I mean, this is like some Austro-fascist stuff going on now.
Wow. You know the Batman and Robin meme.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm triggered by that word. My safe space back home in Austria has double eagles and pictures of Franz Josef and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to have to go back there and maybe, suck my thumb a little bit.
Yeah. Well, okay. Recuperate.
I feel now I'm
from
done.
Recuperate from your exposure to American freedoms.
Well, is that what they're calling them now? No, seriously, I have had a great time being back. And I'll look forward to coming back at Christmas time. I will miss the American Halloween, definitely. And I'll miss the Moon Festival.
What about Thanksgiving? Do they have Thanksgiving over there? They don't.
Yeah, I mean...
Come on, Thanksgiving.
Well, you know how I celebrate Thanksgiving when I'm home. I hide out in my house. I watch old movies, drink champagne, and eat turkey.
Yeah, that's great.
It is, but I mean, I get the same effect there just by being there.
Okay.
But anyway,
Okay.
Not that I drink champagne constantly. I do have to, pace myself.
Okay, so we'll see you next time. We'll see you next week. Hopefully we hit the Patreon limit, so we're just going every Monday now.
And that will mean, ladies and gentlemen, even from Austria. God bless, and remember, if it's Monday...
It's off the menu.
And the soul you save
may be your own.
Take care, everyone.